We were saying earlier about how karting is such a great breeding ground for future motorsport. Of course, karting's not just a breeding ground for motorsport, it's an ideal motorsport for older people to get into and have a drive. A lot of guys that you'll see running club days of the elder generation, you might say. And over in Europe, you can actually make a decent living out of karting. The top guys such as David Foray, Marco Artigo, those guys who race year in, year out in the European and World Championships earn a very, very tidy salary.
Yeah, good point. You're quite right, and the top-line driver's earning a lot more than you and I do each year.
Absolutely. Several $100,000 are some figures being talked about for some of the guys right at the front of the karting sphere over in Italy, and it's figures that we don't really see here because it's such a hobby sport in Australia. It's always professionalising in Australia and getting better and better, as we've seen through our coverage here this weekend. Presentation of equipment's going up all the time, but it's certainly going to be a long time before we see figures up in hundreds of thousands of dollars or even in the tens of thousands of dollars for drivers in Australia.
Ryan Fulcher here, ahead of Matt Greenbury in 34. Next driver on the circuit is Ben Walter in 15, who started stone motherless. Started position 23. Great drive. Here he is at the back of this trio.
He really does a fantastic job, this Ben Walter. He's based in Tasmania, and regardless of where there's a big event, he's just brought it all undone. Got a little bit too excited, and as you can see, these karts have got a clutch, so he's able to keep on going. Sitting in third place, rides over the back of Fulcher. Well, possibly Greenbury slowed down a little bit too quick for Fulcher, and Walter had nowhere to go and just drove over the back of him, but he is allowed to keep on going. As I was saying, wherever there's a major event on, you can count on Walter being there. Does a fantastic job for the sport.
Fulcher ahead of Dean Oven. Here they come. Fulcher getting down behind the steering wheel. 34 on screen, Matt Greenbury. Pretty much on his own at the present time.
Yeah, Greenbury's really been able to open up that gap. As you see there, Fulcher's drifting back into the clutches of Oven in at third place. Nice little battle developing for second, third and fourth. And Jason Stanias, there the Victorian in the Phoenix karts, driving for Impact Racing, sitting back in fourth placing.
Great battles. We haven't been let down this weekend at the 2007 Karting Nationals. Last lap now for our leader, Matt Greenbury. Started the race from position number 5 in the Intrepid machine.
Brought into Australia by Ian Black of International Karting Distributors IKD, the Australian Sparco importer. He's on his final lap as Greenbury as he heads up the hill for the final time.
There's been a battle raging behind him, but he's been pretty much out of harm's way, Greenbury, for the latter stages of this event. Beautifully presented team too. And he is not far from the checkered flag. The battle for second and third is still a cracker. There's your winner though, it's Greenbury, the winner of Leopard Heavy at the Nationals. Fulcher second, Oven third. Okay, just the one race now remains here at Eastern Creek in the Australian Nationals. It is the fiercely competitive Clubman Light class. 40 drivers on the circuit chasing National Championship glory. Dave and James Serra start from positions 1 and 2 respectively. Then it will be Thorpe and Hayes as we flick the graphics and show you the way they're going to line up on the circuit here.
Well, Dave, this is the big one. This was what it's all about. Clubman Light, it is the most prestigious class at this AKA Nationals. Expect this one to be the most fiercely contested race of the day. James Serra, he is desperate to win this championship.
Won't be long before this field is dispatched in the Clubman Light final. We're going to hear from Matthew Wall in just a moment, and Matt spoke to him earlier today seeking his impressions and thoughts on how he would go in today's final. He drives kart number 15. He starts this race from the inside of the third row, and here he is.
One man is always at the top's Matthew Wall. Matt, big event here at Eastern Creek this weekend.
Definitely is the biggest event of the year for any class year this weekend. We've got 48 drivers entered, and only 40 make the final. So after the 3 heats of racing, hopefully we've got a good starting spot for the all-important one race.
And for you, what would it mean to take out the Clubman final? I mean, it's a race that you've never really taken out before.
Definitely, it's the only class I've been in that haven't won the green plate, and it's something I want to do before I retire from the sport. So fingers crossed, today might be the last day that I'll be in the class. So.
Okay, here we go now, the start in Clubman Light. David and James Serra sharing the front row of the grid, then Thorpe in third. As we get them underway, it is David Serra that leads them up the hill. The first time a driver has dropped off the circuit, but will rejoin the race without causing any dramas for any of the other drivers. It was the man behind the wheel of machine number 20. Meanwhile, it's David Serra leading this race.
3 Victorians out in front. Bit of a turn up for the books, actually. We've got Serra leading from Serra with Cameron Thorpe in the Tony Kart third. Another chassis change there with Thorpe crossing across to Tony Kart 4 this weekend as they swing down the hill, lap number 1.
Not unusual to see a number of drivers throughout the weekend doubling up, running in different classes. There are several familiar names here, including Fothergill, who was in fact the driver of 20 that went off the circuit about 100 metres after the start.
Nice bit of driving here as James Serra looks up the inside of his cousin. You don't want to bet there's a bit of team driving here as David shuts the door on Cameron Thorpe. To swing their way through now, James Serra leads the way for something like the last 4 years in succession. James has led this race on the final lap but has been defeated. He is the best driver never to win the Clubman Light Championship. As Thorpe now swings his way into second place, he's got Matthew Wall, the man that we heard from earlier, into third. A hint at retirement from Wall. And what a sad day that would be for karting if Matthew Wall decided to hang up the helmet.
Cameron Thorpe under siege from Matt Wall in 15. Nothing between this trio jostling for position. Our leaders have cleared out for the time being. James Serra in 94 has a very handy break over Thorpe. There he is. In 98, it's David Serra. Finds himself back in third after starting the race on pole. Got some work to do here to get back in touch with his cousin.
Matthew Hayes, the Victorian, has slotted himself in there as well. Matthew Wall drifted back through the field a little bit. Didn't quite pick up what happened to Wally, but he won't be happy with that and will be looking to make amends.
The kart's running quickly in ideal conditions at Eastern Creek.
I'm blown away by this drive by James Serra so far in this race. I did not expect this at all. In Clubman Light, I would have expected there would have been a heap of drivers, absolutely nose to tail, which is what you come to expect from this class. The battle between Thorpe and David Serra has really helped James out. David, of course, driving an Arrow chassis for the DP Karts team, owned by David Price, who is the father of Melinda Price, well-known lady racer in V8 supercars and many different forms of racing. And James Serra, the factory driver for Monaco, owned by Remo Luciani, the chassis distributed by Remo Luciani.
Well done, Matt. Gee, it's a good race here. David Serra ahead of the 52 machine of Matthew Hayes. Of course, the leader, as we've told you a number of times, has opened up a reasonable buffer on his nearest rivals. James Serra. David lies in second now. And you can see he's got 3 drivers right behind him.
All these competitors utilising a Yamaha KT100S engine, the MG red tyre, which is the control tyre specified by the Australian Karting Association, and they have to come in at a minimum weight of 140 kilos.
What sort of money are we talking, Matt, for anyone watching this that may want to investigate the viability of having some fun on the karts?
For a good second-hand chassis and engine package, you're probably looking at somewhere around the $2 to $2.5 grand mark. That's if you want to get started in a second-hand package. If you want to go new, it's obviously a little bit dearer. Some guys do spend a fair bit of money, guys at the front of the field, to go racing in the way that they do, which is practically every weekend, spend a lot of money to go karting every year, but you can do it on a budget.
Yeah, and of course, in addition to the purchase of the machine, be it new or second-hand, pardon me, you've then got a lot of spare parts inventory, and you certainly need a van or a decent trailer and quick shade tents and things like that. It costs money to set up, but in comparison to other forms of motorsport, the karting is very appealing at entry level.
It's an affordable motorsport, as we saw the West Australian Deepal Candola go straight across the grass. We pick him up in replay, misses a chicane altogether, and Deepal's well and truly down the field. He's been across to Eastern Creek a number of times throughout the last 12 months to set up for this event, and he'll be absolutely disgusted in his own performance this weekend.
Putting it mildly.
I know they take it fairly seriously, the Candola family, and that's not a slight on Deepal, and I'd say that he would be very, very unhappy at the end of this one.
James Serra on screen in 94. He is the race leader and has a break of some 30 metres over the man in second.
Thorpe's dropped back there, and he looks like he's in the clutches there of the 49 card of Kyle Ensby, who's making his way through the field, making his presence felt. Good little battle happening here between 5-carders as the laps begin to wind down in this one. Clubman Light, it really hasn't reached the heights that we expected coming into this race. James Serra got away in front, and he's doing a brilliant job.
52, Matthew Hayes, who's been at the pointy end of the pack since we saw the green flag drop in this race, is in second. It's the other Serra. I refer to David, of course, who started on pole right behind him as they run through Yamaha turn. And here's our leader, James Serra. You can see the gap visibly. That shot showed it as they exited the right-hander.
It's important to point out while we're looking at David Serra, of course, we saw him in the Leopard Light final in our previous program. We saw a major crash at the end of that one with young Chris Wooten, who had a big rollover just after the checkered flag. Chris is okay, broken collarbone though, but he'll live to fight another day, which is great news.
He's as good as you can be with a broken collarbone.
That's right, exactly right. Lucky to get away with just a broken collarbone as a result of that incident, in fact. As we see Matthew Wall now starting to put his fellow Victorian Cameron Thorpe under the pump. A big surprise in this one. The Victorians have come out and blasted the local drivers here at Eastern Creek this weekend.
A big thanks to Simon Cabling for their assistance in getting us here for our coverage this weekend, and the North Shore Kart Club, the local club, licensed to stage the Nationals in 2007.
Yeah, big thanks to those guys. Simon Cabling, of course, Damon Lyons, thank you for your assistance. I know this coverage is on its way over to the United States to Simon, and we say hello to all the folks there from Simon Cabling, and thank you for your assistance with our karting telecasts.
So not far to go now. James Serra is a long way in front. Here he comes now, and he looks very relaxed behind the wheel too, conserving his kart, not overdriving, not taking any risks.
I can guarantee you James will not relax until he sees that checkered flag and gets the all clear from the weigh marshal. He's been in this position a number of times, as we said before, led on the final lap and hasn't been able to do it. Could this be his time? He's only got 1,024 metres to go. James Serra comes through turn number 2. What an emotion.